Okay, so now we are live, and it looks like the audio's picking up, so we can really officially get into this. So
I still have my headphones on.
yes, it's okay.
Let me take those off.
All right, we're gonna flip for it. You were supposed to flip this time.
I was supposed to flip.
I goofed it. It's all right.
That's
Call
totally
it.
okay. That's totally
Call
okay.
it. Which?
Okay.
Call
So, heads.
it. Is who?
Heads is you.
It's me this time.
Oh,
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Cool. So we're gonna do the countdown. Welcome to Matt and Mike's Matinee. Today we're going to be talking about the movie Sinners.
Yes.
So, this-
Sinners.
Sinners is a movie directed by Ryan Coogler, who did Fruitvale Station, Creed, and Black Panther before this movie. And it is, I have not watched any of those movies. This is the only movie of his I've seen.
You've never seen Black Panther?
I have not.
The first one?
No, I haven't.
Interesting.
Yeah. How many of
Wow.
those movies have you seen? Have you seen Creed or Black Panther?
I've not seen Creed. I've seen Black Panther, though. Yeah.
Did you like Black Panther? Do you like his previous work?
Yeah. I mean, Black
Yeah.
Panther was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what Black Panther did for black culture was really, really good.
Yeah.
Like, it brought a lot of positivity
Mhm.
to that front.
Yeah.
That's not been in cinema for a long time.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So how'd you feel about this as a follow-up to Black Panther?
Has a
Is it
follow.
yeah.
okay.
Because it's
You
the
can't.
next movie. He directed Black Panther, and then
And then Creed.
yeah,
And then
Black Panther, and then this. Like this is
Oh.
you know what I mean. So
So
how do you?
Creed.
Yeah. So Creed was before that. So how do you feel about it?
So let's
Yeah.
talk about my horror experience.
Yeah. We'll start there.
Okay.
We'll start. So with the director, you've only seen Black Panther. You liked it, but yeah. So this is a horror movie, and I know you don't like horror movies very much, as we've discussed
No.
in the introduction to Matt and Mike video.
No. Yeah.
So how do you feel about this? Did you have any trepidation going to this movie?
So first of all,
Mhm.
we saw the preview to Sinners in, I think, Mickey 17.
Yeah,
Was it Mickey 17?
it was.
And I was with my partner at the moment, and she said, "I want to see that movie."
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it was shot and how intense those scenes looked, I was like, I kind of feel a horror vibe, but I'm still kind of interested in it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And thank goodness I was absolutely pleased with the movie. Like, even though it's kind of marketed as a horror, it's
Well, what's
not
interesting-
like The Conjuring.
Yeah, it's true. Well, what's interesting is that the first trailer didn't let on to any of the horror elements of the movie.
You're right.
It wasn't until the second trailer that it kind of led on to the fact that there was
You're
something else going on.
right.
So
Yeah,
kind
you're
of interesting,
definitely
but
right.
yeah.
I didn't
Mhm.
think of it that way.
mhm.
But it thankfully wasn't. It wasn't just a straight slap in the face horror movie, and I actually got a lot out of it. Like,
Mhm.
I really enjoyed my experience with Sinners.
Yeah.
How about you, buddy?
Yeah, I did as well. I liked it quite a bit. So, but instead of me, I know I usually lead on these. Why don't you kind of go into why you liked it? Why don't you take the lead on this one, Michael?
So-
let's do it. So, yeah, how'd you feel about it? You
So-
got a lot out of it, but
Okay, so first of all,
yeah,
I felt like the way it was filmed was very high class. There were a few scenes there at the very beginning, especially when we're like introducing the characters and stuff like that, where they seemed to have used like a different camera or something. It was a little bit jarring for the viewer to see, but straight from the punch, it throws you into this culture.
mm-hmm.
And then you just ride the ride all the way through.
Yeah, it takes place in the 30s in Mississippi.
1932, I
Mhm.
think, is
Yeah.
what it showed on the
Yes.
screen.
Mhm.
And it's a very tough time in American culture. But we figure out that pretty late in the movie, honestly, there's something different about this little town
Yeah.
and about things that are going on.
Right.
The maturity of the movie was really kind of refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't take itself too far, but it really drove home the feeling of what it was like to be black in 1932, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really enjoyed how they approached it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I will say there were some scenes towards the end that it almost felt like a second movie.
Yeah.
Like it feels like the first 75% of the movie is a different story.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that if I had to, and I agree with you, and I'm going to get into why that I think that is when I go into my thoughts.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get too much into that, but I will say this. I think that was intentional because this is really like a African American version of the movie From Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah, they're very similar. Like From Dusk Till Dawn is a situation. It was a movie that Quentin Tarantino was involved in about two gentlemen that end up they're like criminals, and the first half of the movie is about like following them do all these crimes, and then they go into the desert. They go to the strip club in the desert after this crime spree, and then all of a sudden it turns into a vampire movie.
Yes, definitely.
Right, and I think that this movie was doing that,
Mm-hmm.
but in a very different kind of way. They're very different tonally, but I think it was I think they knew what they were doing with that. But
what did you think about it? Like, tell me what your thoughts are.
So I think what you're talking about with the movie kind of these unreal kind of elements to it is kind of drawing inspiration from a lot of the early blues myths. So one of the big myths I think that this movie was kind of drawing inspiration from was the Crossroads story. You know, the Robert Jordan, disappeared for a couple of years, went down to Crossroads, sold his soul to the devil to get his ability to play the blues, and then that myth has carried through a lot of African American culture, and and it is attached to blues music. So the fact that the preacher at the beginning of the movie is trying to tell our main character to say, hey, you don't need to be playing the blues music. It has like unnatural, ungodly sort of,
which in this
elements
universe,
to it. It actually does. It really has some sort of power. And I think that it's really cool that they're making a new movie that's kind of a parallel to those stories around blues music. So I think it does a hell of a job doing it. And
Absolutely.
music is really
Absolutely.
at the core of this story. And there are some sequences in this movie.
Yes.
The main character's voice is great. The music is so good. The soundtrack was done by Ludwig Emil Thomas Göransson. I'm pretty sure I might have butchered the guy's last name. I apologize, but he's done the soundtracks for all of the movies directed by Ryan Coogler so far.
Wow.
But he also did the Oppenheimer soundtrack as well. And yeah, he's fantastic. And when I think about Oppenheimer and how that movie, all the attention relies on the soundtrack, his work in this movie is impeccable. The blues music and stuff is fantastic. But there's this one sequence that I want to talk to you just quickly about. It is the scene in the movie the juke joint. Whenever the main character starts playing blues,
my favorite scene of
that
the whole
scene
movie.
that made me. That's one of those things I got chills. I was like, had a big stupid smile on my face.
Yes.
That's the kind of thing that jumps a movie up in my estimation hugely.
Wild.
Because that's what I want to see movies do. And I don't want to spoil that for the people at home by really talking about it. But that is so incredible, and man. But I will say, what you were talking about with the classiness of the story, the maturity, like they don't dwell a lot of times on like the gore, and in fact, actually, a lot of scenes are more tense because they oftentimes things will happen to characters off screen.
Yeah,
the cuts in the movie is really great. Like it makes it more terrifying because especially like we're seeing where someone will get jumped from the sky, or like it'll cut before they get like and I think it creates like this tension, this rising tension, this way that like old classic horror films do.
It's so well.
Like Psycho doesn't show like it shows like the knife and the stabbing, but it doesn't show the actual impact of the blows.
The gore is not the main focus
at
of
all.
this, and the gore is just.
But when it happens, it's intense. When it does show up, it's pretty.
But it's not
pretty gnarly,
there
but it's not
to be
the
the focus, and it's the gore is just a side effect of the story.
Right. I don't think you can have a vampire story without gore. You know,
it's got to be blood. Yeah, 100%. But you're not chopping your hand off and attaching a chainsaw to it type thing.
Yeah.
It's not there just for it.
Yeah.
Which really makes me excited for the movie and happy about it because they're telling their story. They're not there just for the blood and the gore. They're there for this is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, does it happen.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so tense and so creepy, but not scary.
Yeah.
The scariest part to me was the very beginning when they did those jump cuts.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, oh no, this is going to be bad. But then it was more, after the action really hit, it was more suspenseful and just like...
Yeah. So this movie kind of does what recent movies we've watched. We've had Novocaine. We talked about the Minecraft movie recently. And one of the things I talked about in both of those movies, and we kind of agreed, is that the movies take a long time setting up the situation. But then in those movies, the payoff is a little shaky. In this movie, the payoff is very, very good because these characters are really good characters. Yeah. I really like Smoke and Stack, both played by Michael B. Jordan. Incredible job on those characters.
Now,
but
I will say the only gripe I have about Michael B. Jordan's characters is that at the very beginning, the fact that they're the same character, they did a lot of the cheap ways to do a twin character at the very beginning. Now, as the movie continues, they get better at doing that. And then, of course, you could tell, I guess, that they get more money to put towards having them both on screen, which is fine. And once you start leaning into the movie and you start escaping, you don't notice it as much, and you can really see that they are two different characters.
And it shows his range because they are very different people.
It's so good.
But I mean, really, there's a lot of really great characters in this. I think that I really liked the one guy, the Delta Slim, the piano player, the guy who agrees to do it because they had the beer.
Yeah, the drunkard.
Great character. Really fun. I think the vampire is really cool too. I mean, a really cool take on a vampire as well. Like,
let's rewind a little bit. The drunkard.
Yeah.
Red Fox is who I got from him.
Yeah.
I was like, Red Fox, if he was still alive, would be the perfect person to put in his role.
He's great. He adds a little bit of humor and levity to the movie. But not a whole lot. I mean, not enough to where it makes the movie really less serious.
He has a really sad backstory, like most of them do.
Yeah.
But the way that he comes across and the way he approaches life is a lot more whimsical than the more deep, like, dark sides of this movie.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, but when it comes down to it, I mean, I look at the cinematography. I mean, like, the way the movie looks, I like the way it looks. I like the way it's shot.
Yeah.
Maybe it isn't the best shot movie I've ever seen, but, I mean, the characters are there, the writing's there, the music's there.
The music.
The story beats are there.
Yeah.
It ends in a really cool way also. It doesn't wrap itself up. I mean, like, the villain goes out a little bit, but
after credits. Oh.
But the villain goes out maybe in like in a really cool way, but maybe not the most original kind of way, but the way the movie ends, it really makes this movie tonally way different than most vampire movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I can't name another one like it.
Especially so there's two endings. After the first intro scene, the first credits, right? There's an ending, and then after the actual credits, there's an ending that really just changes the whole tone of the movie.
I know.
Everybody left the theater before, like, as soon as the credits started rolling, and I'm like, those people got a different experience than we did.
They did, and that's why I warned you about it, because I was like, do not leave, because it's so good. And the ending credit scene, which doesn't have to be a spoiler, has Buddy Guy in it, who's a legendary blues player who play in the scene, and I was like, oh man, you're missing out, like, not getting to see this guy on the screen.
Oh. They did this movie,
and they get him to play the guitar, and man,
they did this movie, and they did the blues culture and the African American culture so good.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I mean, all that considered, I mean, I gotta sit here. I think it's a great movie. I'm gonna go at 8 because I think it is a great a great movie.
An 8?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a great piece of cinema. That's where I'm at. So are you at
I'm at a 9.
You're at a 9? Yeah.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah.
So this is the first movie that we've rated that is a lot more
Now I thought
mature.
about giving it a 9. Like, don't get me wrong. It's really close. You know?
Yeah.
So I mean let's be fair. I mean, it's almost a crossover. So
that's so crazy.
Yeah.
So
when I came out of the theater, I thought it was a 9, but then I only gave it an 8 upon further reflection and just kind of thinking about it in context of all the other movies I've ever rated. And I'm like, no, I think it is 8, but I mean that's not. But numbers or whatever. The movie is great.
Yeah.
It's an excellent movie.
Excellent.
You need to go watch it.
Absolutely. And watch it in theaters.
You need to watch it in theaters if you can, because you will totally miss out. Like if you can't experience that music scene on the big screen with their surround sound, like you're gonna miss out on it.
Plus the surround sound and the extra sound, like people talking in the background. There was a lot of cues that I picked up on that people around me didn't, and audio cues, and we can get into that if we do a deep dive.
Yeah.
But I gave it a 9 because I 100% this movie will stick with me. I will reference this movie in my brain going forward. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that they've done that I'm still chewing on. I watched it yesterday, but I like I said, it's amazing.
Yeah. It's easily a contender for best movie of the year already.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be. I mean, we can't say anything. We're not even at the halfway point yet. But this is pretty strong. I think it'll take a heck of a movie to dethrone it.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Because it's not like so artsy. It's really in a good spot because it's artsier than just a generic. Because this movie is not a summer blockbuster kind of movie, but it's also not so artsy that it doesn't have that appeal for audiences. It's really in this sweet spot where it has a lot to offer.
Yeah.
Pretty much anybody that goes to
definitely.
watch it. So I think that you gotta every single person that was involved in this movie should be very, very proud that they were involved in this.
Absolutely.
So yeah, because and this is the kind of thing that I want to see more horror movies do, because I think that with more movies like this hitting the theater, I think we'll end up maybe seeing an Oscar win down the line for a horror movie, which needs to happen. I think the only one that's ever done it is The Shape of Water, and that's not even really a horror movie. Yeah. It's just kind of attached to the horror label, because it's kind of like hey, what if we do Creature of Black Lagoon, but it's a romance movie, But that's it.
But Sinners is kind of the same way though.
Yeah.
Sinners is not really a full horror movie.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like the like
well, it's what's a horror movie that is in that takes a lot of time and care in the character development and setup and the writing, which doesn't mean it is not a horror movie, but it is just, once again, what I want to see horror movies do. I want to see less.
I can get behind
less jump scare slasher movie, boring movies where we're only there to see people die in horrible ways, and more movies like this with great narratives, great characters, and great sequences, scenes.
I can get behind horror movies if they're this way. The whole reason why I don't like horror movies is because they're designed either to just be over the top and gory in a more demonic, like uncomfortable way, or it's designed to stick with you and make you not sleep at night and be paranoid. I don't like those. With Sinners, I left feeling like I actually gained something instead of having to look behind my back. The vampires really are super cool.
Yeah, they are.
And they draw a lot from classic vampire lore too, which I really appreciate.
Right. Yeah.
It was almost like there were some scenes that felt like an old monster movie.
Yeah. Versus like The Conjuring or Annabelle or these there's a generation of like cheap cheap thrill horror movies. You know?
Exactly.
So yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we're going to do a whole plot breakdown, but I would like to go do a spoiler section.
Yeah,
so we can talk about a few specific scenes.
Let's do this.
Because I want to talk about it in more detail because they're really neat. So what we're gonna say. If you are still sticking here, you need to leave because we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. Please go see it in theaters, and come back and watch the rest of this video later, please. So.
Yes, you right there. So spoilers ahead. You have been warned.
Good.
Dive on in, buddy.
Right,
Let's go.
Spoilers. So let's talk about that music scene real quick.
Yes.
So so we realize that the blues has the power to actually like conjure the spirits of his ancestors, but and also the spirits of musicians from not only the past but also the future.
So
that scene.
Okay, so the movie starts out with the precedence that some people can play music so well that they can connect the past and the future,
right,
and bring people back and forth to the future. That this power is so strong that it can revive people and make people feel better, but it can also draw evil to them.
Right. And that is what happens in the movie. That is what happens in the movie.
Culminates in that scene.
Right. So basically, just a little bit of a.
I'm all about time travel.
It's great.
All about
so and that's what draws the vampire to them. So the vampire in this is an Irish immigrant, you know, and he is like what makes him interesting is that he doesn't like the Klan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he ends up killing him. Ends up being like, hey,
a couple. He ends up killing a
couple of them
people.
and gets them to join him. And he was planning on killing the rest of them too. Like he even said it. He's like, hey, there's
he's gonna
but the thing is, but he uses the fact that that Irish people were also enslaved and discriminated against is a way to try to get in the minds of the African American characters in there, and it'd be like, hey, well, if we bond together, we can defeat racism. We can create this union.
But his whole character was designed to be manipulative,
right,
and controlling,
right, exactly,
and every single step was to make his covenant bigger,
right, and he's just finding those points, points to get underneath their skin and try to get into their minds and stuff. But he's attracted to them because of this performance by the main character of the movie, and because he wants to bring his ancestors the
climax of the movie.
But he wants to use the main character's power of with his blues music in order to bring his ancestors back, this vampire lord. So in this scene, it starts off like this. It's in the jukebox and it ends up with this amazing blues performance. But you notice as the audio, it kind of traveled around.
It did.
As it was doing it, it started adding all these extra additional instruments because as the spirits of these past players started coming in,
or the future,
it started to alter the groove of the song, and then it started, and not only just with, if you notice, not even just with African American spirits, but also some Asian as well, because there were Asian
cultures there
characters,
too.
This juke joint
represented.
There the shopkeepers that were kind of involved, and it's incredible. It is so incredible.
As soon as the guitar guy appeared, I was like, "This movie's fantastic." And the feel that the music just grabbed you by your friggin' live strings yourself and just teleported you. It was amazing. It was such a good feeling to feel in the theater.
So then at the sentiment of the characters at the end, where they're like, up until everyone died, it was like the greatest day of my life. It's the only time I felt free. It makes sense because you're just like, well, it's so freaking crazy, If I was in that crowd, it would be the same way.
I mean, do you think that they
even the kitschy, all the music is great. We're talking about those, but even the little ditties, the little goofy songs that were sung by the vampire and the two Klansmen he killed and turned into vampires. Even those were funny, and good, and everything in there was fantastic.
Whenever you see after everybody leaves the club and they get changed, whenever you see them dancing in the circle, with the heat lightning going on in the background, and their eyes glowing, and they started singing. It's just absolute chill moment right there.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I think that the other scenes. I mean, that was the standout scene. The scene where the everything starts hitting the fan, was really interesting too. So I guess real quick, just so the audience members have some context. Just we're not going to go crazy deep, but basically the two characters, two brothers played by Michael B. Jordan, Smoke and Stack, basically worked for Al Capone, and they ended up stealing a bunch of money.
Did they work for Al Capone though?
Well, they said that, but they ended up either stealing money from a bank or stealing money from Al Capone. We don't really know.
No, they stole from both sides. They stole from everybody.
Right, and then they end up taking all the money and they buy this mill from this Klansman, this KKK head Klans member, who says, "Oh, well, we're not really doing any of that anymore."
Obviously lying,
which is lying. As we see at the end of the movie, which I want to talk about that scene. It's pretty cool.
Oh.
But so they end up taking the money and they end up making a juke joint because they want to make like a place where people in the black community can come and they can play music and that's kind of the thing. And so the first part of the movie follows them collecting people to play at the juke joint. So that's where we meet the main character, who's Sammy, preacher boy. They end up picking up like a piano player, a singer, and these various people, shopkeepers to furnish to cater the event and all that sort of things. And then it takes.
Here's something really cool though.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
It's like they don't straight out tell you their backstories.
Mm-hmm.
They don't straight out tell you what their connections are.
Right.
You pick up on it. Like when the scene where he's like, "Go get your mama," and she just walks across the road to the other store,
which is a really great scene. And that notice how like this filmed like this long shot.
Yeah.
So it's like the camera just like follows her.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's really great.
All the way out and
really
then all
great
the
shot.
way back
and
in.
Then she comes in and sees the people that like Stack shot. I think it was Stack. I think
she sees in that he shot them after touching the. He's like, "Man, I didn't want to have to shoot you."
Really great. Yeah, because Stack's doing that while his brother Smoke is visiting his wife. Either his wife or his old girlfriend. I don't know if it's ever said specifically in the story.
Yeah.
But regardless, her character's great, and because she's the one that knows all about
she's the
all
witch.
the spooks and haints and stuff like that,
yeah.
which makes sense in this universe because at first, she gives like Smoke like a little like something to protect him against like
necklace.
spirits and bad.
You don't
and
know
bad
that until he gets
stuff.
there.
And so he has it, but you're just like, oh, well, this is just at the point in time in the story.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, well, this is just like old superstitious stuff until you realize like, no, all these powers in this world are real. And then you're like, oh man,
Did you notice the visual hint? Whenever she was talking about it, how the world around got a little bit darker and focused.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it gave you power, but we didn't. You're right. We didn't know at that point that this is real.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's really good, and I really like her character quite a bit. But that's basically the setup of the movie. They get everybody together. They play, and it's one night. There's a juke joint. That scene we were talking about happens. Ooh, incredible.
So
and
good.
Then it attracts those vampires who come and they start picking off people one by one.
Let's rewind just a little bit because we have to talk about the introduction of the vampire.
Right.
What was his name?
Which is really, really interesting. The vampire is. Just give me 1 second. I wrote down all of the people here
somewhere on the list. The name of the vampire.
Yes. Just give me 1 second. There's just a lot of people.
Sorry to derail it just a little bit, but what I was gonna say,
I don't know if I wrote them down.
Was the introduction, his introduction to the movie? It's fine. We can just continue.
Okay, that's fine. But yeah, there's the lead vampire guy.
The introduction of him to the movie felt a lot kind of like a Van Helsing type.
Yeah, well, it was really cool because that was the first time that you realize that you're in a horror movie, basically. Because up until that, there's no indication that it is, and then it drops them like literally into the screen because it kind of because it kind of cuts out to this field where you realize that he's being like hunted by these I think Native American Navajo hunters I think is the clan, and the tribe that are hunting him down, and I think. And then he shows up on the doorstep of this husband and wife who are the KKK members who we were talking about earlier.
So the husband is the son of the guy who sold the mill.
Yeah. And so and he's just like, hey, I'm like these guys, like because he's got all the like scars and burns on him. He's like, hey, these people, they're hunting me down. They're crazy. They're trying to kill me. I'll give you this gold if you hide me in your house and stuff. And they let him in, which is a big mistake. Big mistake.
Was it a big mistake though?
Yeah.
I say they were okay, but
no, it was good for us, the audience members.
Not good for them.
Not good for those guys. And then the Native Americans show up on the doorstep. They're like, hey, if you invited this guy we're hunting down into your home, you made a big mistake. He is not what you think he is.
Yep.
And we're the audience like, what does that mean? And then because the wife is the one that answers the door, and after she basically shoos them off and says, yeah, wait, I'm not listening to you, and she goes back to check on her husband because there's nothing. It's all quiet inside the house.
Yeah.
And that's when we realize that he has been turned into a vampire, and the guy he let in was a vampire. And then we realize, we're watching a vampire movie.
Yeah, that's the movie changes tones and everything from that moment.
Yeah.
It's just all hell breaks loose.
Yes.
But that scene felt 100% different.
Mm-hmm.
You're watching a monster movie.
Yeah.
A monster flick.
Yeah. Well, it's like, and they just invade. The monsters invade this drama kind of, like this really interesting kind of drama film. They really just come in and they just start killing everybody.
Even as the viewer, you are invaded.
Yeah.
When you're watching the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool.
You're right there in the middle of it.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah, it's such a great way of doing it.
Let's talk about him for a little bit. You were mentioning earlier you wanted to talk about the main vampire.
Yeah, I think the coolest thing to do with him is that he has this ability where anybody that he turns, he shares their memories. Like he knows their memories and they know his. Mm-hmm. So it becomes like a hive mind, which is very, very intriguing.
Yeah.
And it would make sense in that capacity where he's like, where his argument against like, well, my way will end racism. We can achieve racial equality this way because everybody becomes like this hive mind soup.
Yeah, but you lose your.
But it's
bullshit.
It's bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting framing device where you can kind of like. It makes him like an intriguing villain, a much more intriguing villain than just an evil, kill everybody vampire guy.
He did a great job.
Yeah, he really owned it. He really sold that character. And I think that, and the people that he turns, them believing it so hard is also interesting as well. Because as he starts to prey on the people at the juke joint, so after the performance, it attracts him and his two cronies start kind of like manipulating people to come outside and meet him, and they start turning people, and then all hell breaks loose, as you said.
Yeah.
As they're doing it, the people that they're turning, though, really start to believe in what he's saying.
Well, they're being brainwashed.
But it's interesting because we don't know how much autonomy they have. And I wonder, it's questionable because, like, you
have to remember.
we see that one girl, so Smoke has this ex-girlfriend who is somebody who he left behind because she was mixed, and because of the way people thought back then, he was like, it's dangerous for us to be together because of the opinions of people.
He wanted to do it to save her,
right? But she's one of the first people to get turned.
Which I didn't call. I thought that what's his name, the guard guy, was going to be the first one to get.
Yeah,
turned.
but she gets turned, and she's really the catalyst for everything going horrible, And I think it's an interesting way,
because
thing to do. But the reason I say about the autonomy thing is whenever certain characters are like, so Smoke's wife ends up getting killed in the movie. Because almost everybody dies in this movie. Let's get that out of the way. But she's like, hey, if I get turned, you need to stake me through the heart because I don't want to be turned into one of these vampires.
Oh, my gosh.
You need, and he has to do it. He has to stake his own.
Mm-hmm.
which is a rough scene.
Okay.
But when
That
she gets staked,
Yeah.
the woman who got turned,
Realizes it. She's sad.
yeah, she really reacts really poorly to it. That's Mary. And she's like, oh, and that's before the villain, the main bad guy's still alive, and she ends up leaving. You know,
she did, didn't she?
And that's why she lives. It's like she ends up seeing that. She gets upset about her dying, and then she runs off, which makes you wonder how much control he had over them too.
They still have their, because after the whole movie, they still live and don't have to have him.
Right.
But I want to say something about that steak scene.
Mm-hmm.
There was an audio cue which got me really crazy. Right before the steak went into her heart, you heard a crying baby.
Yeah.
I don't know if you picked up on that.
I didn't catch that actually when I heard it, but that's crazy.
But
yeah.
Oh, that story right there with the baby had me in tears,
yeah.
man. I felt every single emotion in this movie. Every single emotion. Anger, fear, happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
It was so freaking
yeah.
So good.
It's really freaking good.
But like yeah, see it.
You gotta see it.
So
the last thing I want to comment on, because we've covered like some of the best scenes. I don't want to cover everything because I want people to go see this. So I want a little bit of the mystery of the movie to stay.
Yeah.
But I will say that at the end of the movie we have to kind of talk about the end, the ending. So
which one?
Both. Just real quick. So I want to talk about Smoke. So after the whole thing, so Smoke ends up making it through this situation. He's one of the only like 2 or 3 people that live in this event. But Smoke, we realize that like through the whole movie, we realize that like, well, Smoke has like this stuff in the back of their truck that is never really. We just see it in the back of the truck.
It's mentioned.
But we don't know. We don't know exactly what's in the trunk.
Yeah, because they were both in the war.
Right. Yeah. So they were veterans, and we realized what was in the trunk is a whole bunch of military equipment, and so we realized the vampire actually divulges in an attempt to try to turn them into vampires. He's like, "Hey, I found these Klansmen. They're ready to come in here and kill all of you."
Yeah,
because they were not intentional.
So the Klansmen sold the mill in order to set them up.
Right. Yeah. Or just like, hey, we're gonna take your money and then we're gonna kill you because we're still Klansmen. And so Smoke's like, okay. So he ends up like getting all of his military equipment, and
set a trap.
And when these Klansmen come in to kill him they are not ready to deal with U.S. military grade weaponry. And you have this like great scene where he just mows down all of these Klansmen, and it's really cool. But the thing I wanted to talk about was he gets mortally wounded, and I love the scene when he's sitting there and he's shot, and he sees. He's like sitting there and he's like dying, and he sees his significant other, and she's holding the baby,
breastfeeding.
Because their baby died. We didn't say it earlier, but it died for some in like either like a stillbirth or it's not explained how the baby passed away, but it's so cool. So she and the baby are sitting there, and he sees a vision of her, and he reaches out to take the baby, and he gets interrupted by the Klansman like begging for his life, be like, "Hey, we'll pay you," or whatever. And he just so out of the moment, he just takes his gun and just blows the guy away, and that is so like fun and cathartic. And then immediately he's like. And then he turns back to go and receive his baby.
You want to hold her?
Yeah, and then they don't show him dying. They don't do that. I think it was a beautiful send off for that character.
Absolutely.
And
stunning.
Yeah, it's really great. And the last thing I want to talk about is the final scene. So we realize that Smoke and Stack ended up in a situation where they were fighting each other. Like almost everybody else died, and they were and Smoke and Stack were in this like mortal like battle, like death battle with each other in the club towards the end of the movie. And we kind of
the necklace actually saved him from being bitten.
So we cut away from that, and we don't really know the fate of Stack. We just see Smoke come out of it to save the main character at the end of the movie. He saves him from the big bad vampire, and the vampire has the scene where he dies and he like turns to like this flame tornado, which is great. I love that.
Great monster flick scene.
So after the credits, we end up shooting up to the future, and our old Sammy ends up deciding to not give up the blues, even though he had this horrific incident happen, which is ballsy. But hey, he ends up having this fantastic career where he becomes this legendary blues player, and he's like 80, 90 years old at the end of the movie, and it's after the show, and he hears somebody invite a couple people into the club, and in comes Mary and Stack, who were just so they were able to get out, and then we learned that Stack was allowed to live from an agreement from Smoke because they're brothers, and they're like, hey, I can't kill you, but as an agreement, he's like, I'll let you go, but you can't harass Sammy, you can't do anything, you gotta let Preacher Boy live his life. But Stack and Mary are like really big fans of him, and they're like, "Hey, you're about to die. Like I want to save you. You like, I know I wasn't supposed to do this, but like, you don't have to die. You can just." And Sammy's like, "Nah." He's like, "I've seen this world too much."
He was like, "I'm tired of it."
yeah. And then they have that conversation where he says, as bad as the Sammy, was played by Buddy Guy, was talking about, hey, it was everything went to hell, but right before that, when I was playing, that was the best day of my life. And he asked Stack that, and Stack says, yeah, he says, it's the last time I saw my brother, and it was the only time I ever felt free.
And it's the last time that I saw the sunrise. Yeah,
and it's such a great sentiment to leave the movie on, because what other vampire movies end like that?
Yeah.
It doesn't end with a conflict, doesn't end with them like, because you're expecting like, oh man, the Sammy's just going to get killed by these guys at the end of the movie.
We're going to have like this
massacre. Chill conversation.
Yeah.
And
I love how their love too has lasted so long.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're vampires, and that their true love crossed all those boundaries.
Yeah. It's cool. It's such a cool way of ending the movie, and I mean, fantastic. Just all around great. And I was really, really happy you went to go see it.
Absolutely.
But I didn't ask the person you went with. Did they like the movie?
She did.
Okay.
She loved it.
Yeah,
my
great.
partner absolutely loved it.
I never asked, so I was just making. I just wanted to check. So sweet.
So what she got kind of like a different take than I did.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really talk into it in depth or anything like that, but she still really, really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're a fan of horror movies and you just want a really good drama, watch this. I think I'm going to watch it again in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I would really like to see if there's any differences that I'll pick up on knowing how the story goes in the future.
Yeah. I agree. I think this is a movie that I will be coming back to. And this is easily can become a part of the Halloween rotation. Yeah.
Yep.
So
cool.
Okay. I think I'm going to end there. I think that is Sinners.
That's Sinners, guys. Thanks for watching, y'all.
Yeah, appreciate it.
We really do recommend this movie. If you get a chance to watch it in the theaters, go ahead and watch it there. Pick it up anytime you can. Be prepared for some really mature things to happen, but it's worth the ride.
Absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself.
Do you want to take it out on this one, buddy?
Yeah. See you all on the clip side.